You're joining the Loudr Lawyer Network, the podcast where we sit down with the law firm owners, attorneys, and visionaries that are making the most noise in the legal landscape nationwide to find out the secrets to their success. Other podcasts think they're getting loud, but we're getting louder. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Loudr Lawyer Network, where we help attorneys scale to million-dollar months through powerful strategies and connections, and getting in touch with the human side. This morning, I'm pleased to welcome Steve Shellist. Steve, welcome to the Loudr Lawyer Network, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, thank you for being here. Steve Shellist, that name, it's like an athlete. You know, you got the double S going on. It's a real, it gives character to the man that's sitting there with the name, man. So welcome, man. Dope name.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's not the easiest as you would think when you're trying to do initial stuff because it's two round letters. But I do like it. My middle initial is D, so it's SDS. So it's Stephen Dean Shellist. Man, I've played with it 1,000 times trying to, what kind of signature do I want? How do I want it to look? So I have played, and I don't know that it's the easiest letter to work with, but I'm glad it sounds athletic.
Oh, man, it sounds, because you're in the courtroom, you got to be athletic. You got to be quick on your mind. Your actions have to match everything that's going on. So I'm sure we'll get through that. But normally in the show, I do an acronym. We like to give acronyms for individuals, and I'm gonna give yours at the beginning because I want to kick it off differently. You're a different person. I looked at service, tenacity, empathy, victory through justice, and excellence. Now I said service because you serve people before serving the outcomes. Your tenacity is you never back down from a difficult case. Your empathy is understanding clients before you even start repping them. Victory through justice, winning isn't just about the money. Sometimes it's just about restoring the lives and giving closure, justice. And then excellence, you prepare every case, no matter how small or big it is, as if it's going to trial. So that's what service, tenacity, empathy, victory, and excellence is.
I'm stealing that. I'm stealing it. You didn't copyright it. I'm stealing that. I like it.
That's for you, man. I do different ones for everybody. I in the short time that I had to prepare to know who you are, I'm looking through files. I'm Googling. I'm listening to you. I'm listening to everything. And just watching everything. The family life, the going out for fun, all the kind of things that you guys do, because you're human at the end of the day. So that's important. So around Loudr Network, we like to describe our guests, as I did. I want you to take me back to before the cases, before there was ever law school. What kind of kid were you growing up, Steve? And what got you to go into law?
So I was a middle child. I'm sure there's books written. I know there are books written on middle children. Whether I fit that mold or not, I don't know. But I was a good kid. We were 2 years apart, 3 boys. So if I was 8, my younger brother was 6, my older brother 10. I was always a good kid. I got the good grades. I communicated with my parents. I came home and I told them, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I'm home." My younger brother and older brother, they were a little more on the edge, a little more risky than I was. So I think I was a good kid. My parents would have characterized me that way, but I was precocious as hell. I was a curious kid and I was stubborn. So I was always, my dad tells a story. I don't want to eat up your whole show with this, but apparently I was in a crib and the crib was pushed against a wall. Now, mind you, this is back in the early 70s, and I was picking the wallpaper. My parents moved the crib little further. No, I was in a bed by that point, so I must have been 3 or 4. And I'm picking at the wallpaper, and my parents said, "Don't do that anymore." And the next morning they came in, and there was more wallpaper missing. So they said, "We're taking away your pillow." Well, I picked more. So then they took away my blanket. And then I think I took off half the wallpaper in the room before they finally said, "I'm pulling you out of the room." So I was stubborn. I didn't like to be told what not to do, but I was a good kid. And
You
in
just didn't
terms
like
of
being told what not to do.
and that was the same in school. I was an A student in junior high and high school, and probably elementary school, maybe some B's, but I didn't like to be told what to do. And I would talk. I was the class clown, and the teachers didn't know what to do with me because I was a good student. I set examples, but I was disruptive to a degree. And they're like, "Look, man, you can't do that." So they'd send me to the principal's office, and the principal's like, "Look, I'm not suspending you because you're a good student, but what you're going to do, you're going to sweep the halls." So he made me sweep the halls, and all the kids laughed at me, and he thought that was going to teach me a lesson, but he didn't want to ruin my education. So that's me.
Wow.
That's who I was.
That's a beautiful story, man. You had all the makings of, when our elders, I like to say, see us in a light, it's just like a promising athlete that, they do everything they can to keep them. Remember I said your name is like an athlete, man, Steve Shellist. It just rolls off the tongue, but they saw the potential in you because of what you were able to produce in the classroom,
Yeah, I think so. And I'll tell you, when I was 10 years old, I had a government teacher. Again, she's like, because again, I would listen. I got my work done, but I guess I argued with the teachers a little too much. And the teacher said to me at 10, "Steve, you're going to be a lawyer." I didn't know what a lawyer was. But from that point forward, it stuck in my head that I'm going to be a lawyer. And so I knew from age 10 that I was going to be a lawyer. That's not the path I took. I took some alternate routes before I got here, but I always knew I'd end up being a lawyer because of that 10th grade teacher. I mean, that teacher when I was 10 years old.
Right. Yeah. Tell me about some of the, tell me about the path. What led you into actually taking up the torch and doing what that teacher said you were going to do at 10?
Honestly, she told me I was going to be a lawyer. I think I figured out that a lawyer gets to argue, and it was a profession. I knew I wanted to be in a profession.
Right.
And I just had laser set on that. What happened was, no one ever told me, "Hey, slow down, buddy. Just because you've been told you're going to be a lawyer your whole life, that doesn't mean you're getting into Harvard and Stanford law school." So
Right.
I graduated UT, and I took the LSAT, and I did average. And my grades were a little above average, but nothing spectacular. Well, I applied to Harvard, Stanford, all these top schools. No one told me. We didn't have the internet back then. I couldn't look up, I couldn't look up now, like what are the average grades that they have and what are the and I got rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. And after all of them rejected me, my parents said, "Why don't you apply to a Texas school, Steve? You'll get in." I said, "No, it wasn't meant to be." And I gave up law and went a different route for 9 years. But it kept calling me.
What'd you do for those 8-9 years?
I was in the hotel business. I basically worked for Marriott, managing their sports market for some hotels. So when teams would come in, I would help them book and help them, have a good stay so they could be ready for their games. So I was in sales basically.
So you were like a concierge, like VIP person, right?
Kind of, yeah, sort of. And I went back to school in Las Vegas for a hotel management degree. So I spent a couple years in Vegas and decided I can't stay in Vegas working. That was when all the big hotels were opening up and MGM was opening up.
Wow.
And I had a job offer from them, and I said no. If I stay in Vegas, I'm not going to have any money. So I left and went and worked with Marriott and did it for 8 years, but never really appreciated it. And I always kept thinking about, man, I wish I'd gone to law school. Wish I'd gone to law school. And I did that for 8 years. And then I had some other interesting jobs. Some I can't talk about on your program because I'll be blackmailed or permanently made fun of. But I mean, I was a personal trainer in a gym. I sold hotel franchises. I helped my dad manage one of his motels that he owned. So I had some random jobs, but eventually went back to law school.
Wow, that's a story that's a story you got to put in the book right there, man. That's a movie right there. 8 years.
8 years.
8 years of toiling and still having that in the back of your mind after the rejection that I got to get this done.
It was meant to be. I mean, yeah. I'm one of those, I believe everything happens for a reason. If I'd gone to law school at age 21 or 22, I don't know how well I would have done. I don't know where I would have ended up. Right. Those 8 years, I learned customer service. I learned how to treat people. I learned how to run my own business. I forgot to mention I started my own business in that 8-year period too. But I learned how to run a business, and I grew up. And so by the time I went to law school, I was 30 years old, and man, I crushed it in law school because I knew I appreciated that opportunity. I wouldn't have appreciated it at 22.
Wow, that's big right there, man. That's big. What a journey. So tell me, you get into law school. Where'd you go to law school at?
A little private school in Houston called South Texas College of Law. It's known nationally for its mock trial program. It produces a lot of good litigators, a lot of good trial lawyers. A lot of judges came out of there. A lot of plaintiffs' lawyers came out of there. So, yeah, I think it's one of 3 law schools in Houston.
Okay. So when you went to law school, there wasn't any challenge. You said you crushed it. You didn't have any challenging moments that stopped you in your tracks, or you just excelled through? Man,
I loved it. I was probably annoying. I was a gunner. I mean, I was so interested. In to me, I've always believed that knowledge is power. And I think I've always preferred, if you could give me money or power, I'd rather have power. If you could give me fame or fortune, I might rather have fame. It's not always about the money. And law school, to me, every class, I was filling up my gas tank with knowledge on how the law worked and its power, because that's what makes lawyers so powerful, is that they know the law, and you can do a lot of good, you can do a lot of damage. So I was eating it up. I felt like I was just being trained to become a warrior or something. And I would sit near the front, and I engaged, and I asked questions, and I answered questions. I'm sure my classmates were like, chill out, old man. But I ate it up.
You were the oldest at that point when you went.
I was probably, one of the few oldest in the class, and I had a good time. But I ate it up, man. It was like a competition to me, and it was fun, and I found it interesting. So yeah, I can't give you any good stories about struggles in law school, because there really weren't any. Other than I probably challenged some professors a little more than I should have from a respect standpoint, because I was a little older, and but no, I had a great time.
That elementary guy came back into you, how you used to, with the teachers.
Man, I had I don't know. this is an appropriate story to tell, but we had a torts professor who I loved, African-American woman. And the first round of finals that came out, there was a flyer in the hallway that said, hey, the Black Law Students Association is having a study seminar for torts 1. And it's taught by the torts professor. And I was like, well, we're in law school. We're learning about the Constitution, and that doesn't seem fair. Like, I want to learn from our torts professor about how to study for it, but it's the Black Law Student Association. And so instead of just joining this association or keeping my mouth shut, I made us think about it. And people probably thought I was racist or something. I wasn't. It was more about the fairness, the equity side of it. I was like, look, I'm Jewish. If we had a Jewish Law Students Association and a Jewish professor said, I'm going to teach them about contract because he's our contracts professor, most likely only the Jewish law students would show up. And I didn't think that was fair. So I made us think about that. And I caught a lot of flack for that. But I think at the end of it, everyone realized that was just Steve fighting for equal rights, no matter which way it went.
Right. Did you eventually take the class?
I was in the class. Oh, the studied class?
Yeah.
No, but I did really well in hers because I was like, man, I'm going to study my ass off on this so that I get a really high grade. And me and the professor, she pulled me out in the hall and she said, I heard you're grumbling about this Black law student. So, and my teacher, you think I'm unfair? And I told her my feelings, and we became good friends. And that was just my problem. I always spoke first, and I didn't often think about the ramifications.
Right.
I've always been that guy. But I didn't have malintent. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I was like, hey, we're studying this in law school. Maybe I could raise the issue.
Right.
No, and that was, but it wasn't well thought out.
Yeah, but good points though. I see right where you were going with that. So that led you, tell me you graduate out of law school. Tell me about your first gig as an attorney.
So right before I have to rewind and tell you that one of the jobs I had, I worked for Big Law as a clerk for the summer, where they paid me a lot of money. They wined and dined us. I thought that was the direction I was going to go. I wanted to work at a big law firm with a big name and get a big starting salary. Back then, I think it was 100 grand, 150 grand. I said, man, that's what I want. And I clerked one summer and I went, I hate this. I don't get along with these people. I don't want to write memos. I want to be a lawyer. So then fast forward to, the semester, I think before I graduated, and they had a career fair, and the Harris County District Attorney's Office was interviewing. And I went, I've always been interested in law and order. I tried to be a cop at one point in my life.
You tried to be a cop?
Yeah. That was during my 8 years. I applied with 2 police departments, got rejected.
Wow.
They were like, you just want a gun, son. You just want to play. You want to play police officer. It was an interesting experience because they were like, look, you grew up middle class. You drive at the time you had a brand new $30,000 car, whatever it was. It was like a Nissan Sentra, but they're like, it's new. You're wearing nice clothes. You're not going to want to get paid 30 grand as a cop and run around. And they just were like, it's not for you. And I'm like, don't tell me what's for me. I want to be a cop.
There goes the argument again.
Yeah. And they had the last laugh because they didn't hire me. But I was always interested in crime and law enforcement. And so I took a job with the DA's office and was a prosecutor in Harris County.
Right. So the fight, what I'm hearing right now, that's it, the tenacity that you have, never backing down from a fight or a difficult case or anything. So you go in, you're a prosecutor. tell me about your first big case as a prosecutor, and how did that make you feel?
Oh man. We tried a bunch of little, I probably tried a case my first week or two at the office. They just threw you in. It was probably a DWI or something like that. But the first big case I tried was with a senior prosecutor, and she was trying an attempted capital murder of a police officer. And it was a real interesting case. It had media attention. The media was involved. And during trial, I was pretty much carrying her briefcase and learning from her. And our star witness was a drug dealer, and we had prepped him, and he was ready to testify and and help us win the case. Well, he had a change of heart, and he got on the stand with his sunglasses on and his purple suit, and he leaned back and he just started derailing our case. Well, we ended that witness, and this chief prosecutor said, "Steve, don't let him leave. Do not let him leave. He's not free to leave." So I run out in the hall, and there are news cameras out there because they're filming the case. And he's walking down the hall to the elevator to leave. And I said, "Hey." Now remember, I'm 30 years old. I didn't have gray hair, but I was 30, I was 33, but I still looked young. I had an ill-fitting suit, a red, white, and blue tie on. I was a prosecutor. And I said, "Hey, you stop right there. You're not free to leave." And he turned around and said, "What the F did you say to me, boy?" And I'm like, "You stop right there." And now I'm getting nervous. And there's no one in the hall except for a news camera. And they caught it all on film, and it made the news. So that was my first big case. We did win. The guy was found guilty. I'm sure he got life, despite the efforts of the local drug dealer who tried to derail our case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's a Law and Order scene. You know, as you're telling that story, I'm thinking about the stories that you talked about in your 8-year journey, wanting to be a cop and then getting rejected, and then here you are standing up with a case that involved an officer. I just think how everything went full circle for you in that. Like the pieces, like God just placed all the pieces right there in front of you,
I believe that. I do believe that.
It's like your life was just falling in place with you just, all those moments of being a child. What I'm seeing is everything, just the fight in you as a kid, 10 years old, to your journey, to finding yourself, and then being right there, just hitting the ground running practically.
I've been lucky. I mean, it hasn't all been luck, but I think you said it best. The pieces kept falling into place, and you're right. And that's why I look at everything. Everything happens for a reason. No matter how obscure it will look to people, why did that happen? I'm like, there's a reason. And I don't know if my thought process is, that I'm basing it all on it's God's plan, or if it's just something else, some other type of divine intervention, or whether it's just the universe aligning. But I believe everything happens for a reason, even the bad stuff, and it makes you who you are. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe it's just my ability to pivot. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the Lord inside of you, man. That we all have that, and the fact that you can come to terms with that and call that out there, we're nothing without Him.
Yeah.
Whether those choose to believe it or not. What did being a prosecutor, did it change the way you elevated or looked at the truth, evaluated the truth? I mean,
man, that's a great question. First of all, I loved that job. I loved it. And I was a true believer. But it opened my eyes. I love police officers. I love law enforcement. But before this, I thought they were all like doctors. Like I thought all doctors were perfect. I thought, well, they're doctors. It's science. They all know what to do, and they do the right thing, and they're going to save you when you need to be saved. No, Same thing with cops. But I thought all cops were there to help. We're going to follow the law. We're going to do the right thing. And when I got in there and I realized that not just the cops, but, there are some bad prosecutors, there's some bad judges, and it can be a very, very dangerous place, the criminal justice system, for the average person. I think if they knew what happened on the inside, if they saw how the sausage was made, it would be very frightening to a lot of people. For the most part, most prosecutors are good and they're trying to do the right thing, but there is no room for bad. One bad cop can cause a lot of damage. One bad prosecutor can ruin a lot of lives. One bad judge can, create havoc for a society. And so, and the truth is, those three things exist. So yes, it was eye-opening. The truth is not, what is the truth? I mean, I don't even think I know anymore, and I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole right here, but with the way the internet now is, there's no longer one truth. That had nothing to do with it when I grew up at the DA's office, because we didn't have, two truths online. But yeah, it's more about, there was a coffee cup that I had that we had made that said, a jury is made up of 12 people joined together to decide who has the better lawyer.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it was over there. I was a really good prosecutor, but I was a really talented trial lawyer. And I think, it's braggadocious of me, but a lot of people would agree with that. And I was dangerous because, we had a lot of power. I mean, if I got a conviction, someone's going to jail or prison. And if I don't play within the lines drawn for me by the courts, that's not fair. My job as a prosecutor was not to be zealously advocating for the state. That is not your job. Your job is to seek justice. I don't think a lot of prosecutors get that. They think their job is just to be a lawyer that fights like hell. That is not your job as a prosecutor. And if you're doing it that way, it's dangerous.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a long way of answering you, but yeah, I had a real
beautiful answer. Truth. That's just truth. So what did prosecution teach you about people, about humans? What did it teach you?
That nobody's perfect, that you should be very careful before you judge the person next to you, because you have no idea what they're carrying in their backpack, what luggage, what burdens they have, but that is balanced with, you've got to hold people accountable. So it's a really unique balance of, being compassionate, giving people chances, but once people have been given chances, that accountability comes in, man, because otherwise it's a horribly fair position to put the innocent victims out in, right? Like we see all these people, at least in our city, where they were getting let out on bond over and over. They commit a robbery, out on bond, commit a second robbery, out on bond, commit a burglary, out on bond. That's not fair to the victims either. First time around, you commit a crime, it's like, okay, well, what's going on in your life? You had a bad childhood, you were desperate, or a mom who steals food for her children, because I get all that. But so it's a mix. I learned a lot about compassion mixed with accountability.
Wow.
And
that was so elegantly put together, what you just said right there. Looking at, although crimes have been committed by the perpetrator, you take a look at them and see what they're, that first time, like where's the problem there? It's almost like you look at them with the empathy and like, how can we fix this so it doesn't happen again?
Yeah. One of my first big cases as a defense attorney was a murder case. And this guy essentially had no criminal history. He had minor marijuana cases, but he was just a poor kid and had a drug problem himself. Took a lot of pills, sniffed, forget what they were huffing back then, but huffing things. And he was just an insecure, chubby kid living in a neighborhood with a bunch of gang members, and he was trying to be tough. And he got caught up in a murder. But he was out on bond, and I got to know him. We went out to lunch. He was sober. I got to know his family, and I fought like hell for him. And it was a murder. Someone lost their life. But you don't have time on this show, but if I told you that jury trial, that in and of itself could be a book for a host of reasons. But the jury ended up, he was 5 to life. That was his punishment range. You could get a minimum of 5 years or up to life in prison. And the jury gave him the minimum, 5 years.
Wow.
And it was because, yeah, and look, I wouldn't be proud. I mean, look, I've gotten other people off, many who were guilty as hell. And I wouldn't even tell those stories, and I wouldn't be proud of them. This kid, he wasn't a bad kid, and it was just wrong place, wrong time, wrong circumstances. And you know what? He's been out of prison now for 15 years, started his own demolition company, hasn't had an ounce of trouble since. I knew he wouldn't, and has a family and is a productive member of society. So yeah, you gotta.
I got chills right now, man. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. See, God placed you right where you need to be, man. When we come into other people's lives, you never know what that moment is. It's not like we're not Jesus, so we're not gonna save everybody, but there's assignments that we all have, being of service, and what you do is being of service to individuals and spreading eventually what's his love, you know. And that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Wow, that's amazing. So when you're in the courtroom, do you love just simply helping people, or do you enjoy the court? Which is it?
I like both. I like everything about it. I have a trial coming up on Monday. Do I love the court? Do I love the competition? Do I love helping others? It's probably all equal. I love the fact that I'm helping this family. They lost a loved one to a drunk driver in a reckless bar that overserved them. So of course I want to help the family. But I also love the gamesmanship and the competition, and it's a chess, like you said. We talked about this earlier. It's a chess match against the other lawyer. I love that part of it. And then I like the theater of it. I like being in front of a jury and doing my best to persuade strangers to agree with me. Right. It doesn't always happen, but I for some reason I love the process.
No, that's what makes you who you are, man. That makes you a great attorney. What separates a real trial lawyer from someone who simply settles cases? Because I know that before you answer that question, what took you from prosecution to getting into personal injury? Tell me about that journey.
So I had a rough couple of years. I was defending a lot of cases like sexual assault of a child, big white collar cases. I was going to trial a lot. It was so stressful. And I got physically ill in one of my last trials because of the stress. Because even if you're representing someone that you know is guilty, which happened to be this particular case, you have this internal struggle of, I can't do anything less than my best. I'm going to fight like hell. So that's half your brain. And then the other half is going, man, if you do your job well, this person is walking. Wow. They're getting off. And I think it got to me, it built for 20 years because I did it at full speed. I had a lawyer that told me about 2 years into my 20-year criminal defense career, he goes, Steve, an older lawyer, you got to chill out. You didn't get these people in this mess. You got to quit taking everything personal or you're going to have a short career. I go home at night. I don't think about my cases. I go on vacation. I don't think about my cases. And this guy was probably in his 60s. Well, smart lawyer, good lawyer. I never took his advice. I couldn't. Right. So I'm always thinking about the cases and it built up. And then I bumped into a friend of mine at the club, at the gym. And he goes, hey, Steve, I'm doing personal injury now. It's less stressful. There's more money. I really enjoy it. And I said, I'm not going to be an ambulance chaser. I don't want to do that. I'm a big criminal defense lawyer. And then a couple of years of seeing him and seeing his firm grow, seeing him still happy, seeing the monetary rewards of it all, I said, I need to take a look at this. and I looked. And it was right then that I pivoted and I started shifting my practice towards personal injury and away from criminal defense. And I got to tell you, it was the best thing I ever did.
Wow. That's beautiful, man. I love Steve, I love your honesty in, that's always been something that I've looked at. How do people sleep with themselves when they're in a position of defending someone that they know is guilty, right? Moral things start happening, that start coming in play, like good versus bad. And, it gets messy, it gets muddled. And I had an attorney on that I had last week that was talking about a lot of his friends. He's been in the game over 40 years. He said a lot of his friends, got consumed by stress or drugs or whatnot. Attorneys that fell on the wayside are no longer here because of the stress.
Right.
So for you to be able to recognize that and call that like that, man, is, that older gentleman, your elder was looking out for you.
Yeah, he was. But I will tell you, I just, I still don't have that ability to compartmentalize. I may look back, not that this is a confessional here, but I will probably look back, when I'm 80 something years old and nearing the end of my life and say, man, I should have spent way more time with my family and my kids. But I am incapable of not thinking about work 24/7. But it doesn't bring me stress anymore. It brings me, I love it. It's just what drives me. But I don't have a ton of other hobbies and sport. I don't go out and golf every day. I don't play the piano. This is my hobby. This is my sport.
See, something told me when I said athlete, man, that I'm just saying what came to me as I was as I looked at your name and saw that you have all the principles of what a good athlete is. Someone that stays consistent, persistent at what they're doing. They're training in and out. And
I'm an emotional athlete.
Okay. Yeah, there it is, man.
Yeah, a cerebral athlete. I don't know. Maybe you're onto something.
No, man, hey, we'll talk after. So how did being a prosecutor, help you navigate through the personal injury world?
Oh man, so helpful. I mean, I tried hundreds of cases on the criminal defense side and the prosecution side together.
Yes.
So I came into this world with way more trial experience than the average civil lawyer. You know, I mean, I think the average civil lawyer may have, 5 or 10 cases on their resume for their career. And I had that within, a week 2 weeks at the DA's office. So it taught me to learn, it taught me the rules of evidence for the most part. It taught me how to be comfortable in a courtroom in front of a jury, how to act in front of a judge, and just how to live in a courtroom, because it can be a very nerve-wracking place to a lot of lawyers. Even lawyers, when they go out into a courtroom, they get nervous, and I still get nervous, but not as nervous, and those nerves go away very quickly, and I feel very comfortable in a courtroom, and I owe a lot of that to the DA's office.
Mm. So being now you've stepped over into this personal injury world. In prosecution, you have evidence, and you're able to look at the evidence. It's there. What happens? What evidence in PI disappears the fastest?
Oh man, that's a great thought. I have this case I'm trying on Monday, and we're going after this bar for over serving a drunk who killed my client, and we have no video because we didn't learn about the bar for a year and a half, and the video evidence was gone.
Wow.
If this had been a criminal case against the bar, law enforcement generally, they'll go out that night and grab video. So, that video evidence disappears. I mean, that's the one good thing about law enforcement, is if they're trying to solve a crime, especially a more serious one, they'll grab as much as they can up front.
Right.
And sometimes it's preserved sloppily or it's gathered sloppily, but the police are acting under much more exigent circumstances.
Right.
Civil's more, okay, what do we need? What else should we get? And then another week passes, and another month passes, and another month. So I would say evidence preservation is way better on the criminal side. The civil side, it's difficult. But the criminal side is the Wild West. Picture Vietnam warfare, where people are jumping out of trees and stepping on bombs, and there's no rules, and it's just fighting. That's criminal.
Yeah.
Civil is more like you picture in the Civil War, where the armies are marching towards each other with guns and shooting each other. It's a little more regimented, orchestrated.
Yeah.
And so, I'm taking a lot of my jungle warfare with me into the civil world, which I think helps. But there's so many more rules over here. There's so many more procedures. It pains me that we have to share so much information with our opponent. On the criminal side, the prosecution shares everything with the defense. The defense doesn't have to share anything. So you can get into trial and just surprise the hell out of the DA's office. There's not reciprocal discovery. That was a big transition.
So how do you handle that? Being in personal injury, I know how much you like the fight in being a prosecutor. Have you taken that same fight? Have you had cases that you've been able to go out there and fight? I know you said you're preparing for trial right now, but you've been doing personal injury for how many years now?
7.
7. So have you missed that courtroom drama, or have you gotten that courtroom drama in your personal injury cases?
I've had it. It's not as much, because on the criminal side, when you're a criminal defense lawyer, to me, a settlement, like a plea bargain, for me, was a loss. I wanted it dismissed for my client, or I wanted it not guilty. And if I had to please somebody, I felt it was a loss. A lot of defense lawyers would disagree with me, but that's why I went to trial so much. On the civil side, settlements are wonderful because it's money in their pockets. It's guaranteed. Sometimes it's more than a verdict. It happens sooner rather than later, meaning a trial could take 3-4 years and then they could appeal it. So a settlement is a win on the civil side. And I've gotten such fantastic settlement results that it's cost me trials, but it's in my client's best interest. But I have had some interesting trials. I have one right now that the defense is appealing where I sued. What city are you out of?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay. I'm sure you're familiar with Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah.
One of the most famous basketball players of all time. Well, I sued his son. I sued his son here in Houston, and we got a verdict in our favor, and it was fantastic, and they're appealing it now, but that was a fun trial. That judge let us try our case. I was creative. Gloves were off. We fought, and it reminded me of being as close as I could to my criminal days. But then I've had other trials that were the judges kept us more in this kind of boring arena
In a box.
And I'm like, man, let me out of this box. I felt like one of my hands was tied behind my back, but I still love it, and I probably love it more.
Yes. Man, your story is amazing. No matter where you are, you want to keep that fight up. I mean, I told you, that's why I said the service, the tenacity, the empathy, the victory through justice. And then you excel, your excellence, preparing. Just everything is a fight. It's like you still have that mindset of that fighter. Where did that fighter come from?
Yeah. I don't know. My dad's an entrepreneur. My business side came from him, but he's way more chill than I am. My mom, who passed away not too long ago.
My condolences.
Thank you. She was a little more feisty. So I probably got that fight more from her.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I don't know. I don't. All me and my brothers, we're all pretty intense in our own ways. But I don't know what gets me so wound up. I don't know that I can attribute it to a single person. I think again, it's just something about the way I was born that made me want to question everything and fight like hell. Now, the older I get, I'm learning, hopefully, to pick battles a little more carefully. But it's hard because a lot of things to me are worth the fight. And by fight, I don't mean I always have to beat up somebody else about it, but it just means my brain's got to resolve that it's in everyone's best interest for things to go my way on this particular issue. And if I feel that way, then I'm not going to let it go.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, as I said, researching you, and found out you're an ABC 13 legal analysis. How did that come about? Is that something you just stood out among the peers of all the attorneys that are there in good old Houston? And how has television changed the way you communicate complicated legal issues? Because I've watched a few of your clips, man. You're just spot on. Just doesn't matter what it is, you go straight for the jugular.
I think a friend of mine was a reporter, and she first, needed help on a legal topic and asked me to talk on a story, and I did. And then after that, the way it works is that your name just gets passed around to all the reporters and the producers. And once they know that you're competent and B, will be available, I think it just word spread, and I would get a lot of calls from them. Hey, will you talk on this? Will you talk on this? Will you talk on this? And it just happened. In terms of what I've taken from it is, it's been a great experience because, my wife's like, how do you do that? Like, how do you know what they're going to ask? I'm like, I don't. Sometimes I know the topic ahead of time, generally, and I have 10 minutes to figure it out. But it causes you have to be quick on your feet. You have to be able to choose your words carefully so you can get your point across. But, look, they've only played 1% of what I've said because, they cut it, they edit it. But I've never said anything other than what I feel and what's on my mind. And I'm not going to just take a neutral stance, or I'm not going to take the stance that they want, that they think may be better for their story. I love it. And I'll tell you what, it has not come without problems. I've had some haters out there that have gotten a hold of my personal information and stalked me or hounded me or harassed me but they go away, they disappear. But yeah, it's easy. They ask me questions and I almost always have an opinion and I share it.
That's beautiful, man. The human side, the hardest part about carrying other people's tragedies. What is the hardest part about carrying other people's tragedies every day, and what keeps you grounded in saying that? How do you protect your mental health?
I think I get that from my mom. I think you used it as my e-letter. I'm just a naturally empathetic person. And I think that if you picture, some people have a larger closet inside of their body to store empathy. Some have a very small cabinet or a drawer or a pocket. Mm-hmm. Other people have large spaces to carry empathy. And I think I was just built like that, came like that. And so, I don't know. It comes naturally. When I'm dealing with tragedy, I can carry that burden for them. I don't let it consume me. I can compartmentalize it, meaning I'm empathetic, but it sparks the fight. So I use it as fuel to fight for those people. Instead of wallowing in it, I use it to fight, and then I can use it to feed the passion when we get to trial, when we get to mediation, when we're in a deposition. So it is fuel for my fire, is I guess the best way to put it. In terms of whether or not it, how I deal with it, I don't think it's not chipping away at me to the point where I'm going to have to retire soon. The criminal side did that, and we don't have to retread it. But when you're representing people that maybe sexually assaulted a child, and you're out there trying to free them, that will take a toll on your soul and on even though it's your job. And but here, I feel like I'm saving people, I'm helping people. I love it. There's nothing I do, because I don't take cases where someone doesn't deserve the fight. But if I take a case, it's a righteous case, and I'm honored that they've chosen me. I'm honored.
So, given your background in prosecution, and now you're in the personal injury, how do you? Because you have this strong reputation of being this fighter, how do you market in today's world your personal injury side? Are you taking mostly personal injury cases? What percentage of your law do you still do criminal, or is it just all
maybe 1%, 2% criminal? I'm very selective. I take very few cases. So I'm 99% personal injury, and I really don't market. My business is word of mouth, referrals from lawyers, judges, former clients, friends, current clients. I've recently started the whole, putting videos on social media and trying to be better about that. It took me a while to figure out who I was and what I wanted to say. I was never going to be one of those dancing lawyers. I was never going to be one of those lawyers that made jokes out of it and did all the funny trends, because to me, what I do is serious. And I wish our profession were a little bit more like it probably was 20, 30, 40 years ago. There are lawyers now that show up to court in jeans and a t-shirt. Lawyers, I don't like those days. I was raised where when a judge comes in, you stand up. When the jury stands up, you stand up. It's yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor. It is a profession. You have so much power, and people are looking to you. And when you make a mockery of it, or you cheapen it, it just cheapens the whole profession. So I got a little derailed there, probably with the question.
Oh man, that's you. Don't apologize.
Yeah, but what was the original question? Because I was going to make a point about it.
I was going to say, I forgot, you were so good. How has marketing and stuff, like your cases and stuff, how do you go about getting that business? You said you don't do marketing and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I was just saying, you're not going to see me doing a video where I'm dancing and doing something. I'm not going to do a commercial where I have a sledgehammer, or a sword or something like that. That's just not my thing. So I finally figured out, who I want to be in terms of marketing, because I've never had to market. So I finally started.
In this growing space, though, marketing is
key.
Is key, and that's what's going to bring you those cases. That's what's going to keep people. The type of attitude that you have right now, the person you are, that's the market. That out there needs to be out front. That's what people need to see.
Right.
And that truth right there is what's going to. I love what you said. You said cheapen the profession. Those are strong words coming from someone who is with his peers, and I'm sure I respect it, so I'm sure they have to respect that.
Man, I fear what it's going to look like in 20 years, because to me, whether it's old fashioned or not, wear a suit. Wear a suit when you go to court, and even if you're not a lawyer or a judge, wear something like you're going to church. I would see people in court wearing t-shirts with marijuana leaves on them, and I'm like, what are you doing, dude? It's a courtroom, and the lawyers need to set the example. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in terms of marketing, I finally figured out two things have happened. One, I figured out what version of me I'm okay marketing, right? Who I am as a lawyer and as a person. And two, I finally built an infrastructure. I have 12 employees, I think now.
Yeah, 5 attorneys assisting you. I saw.
Well, it's shrinking, interestingly, but that's another story. But yeah, I finally have an infrastructure that will allow me, because I didn't want to open any kind of floodgates that advertising might open if I wasn't able to properly handle it. And I think I feel finally like this team can handle it. It's a really cohesive team. It's a good group. Everybody cares. Everybody gets the mission. And, I think it is time to start doing more. It's just a question of what is it that fits me and what is it that I want to do
Right.
to get quality. I'm not a volume firm. I don't want to turn and burden cases. We spend so much time, effort, and money on each case, maybe to our detriment, because I want to squeeze every penny I can out of every case for every client. And so, these volume firms, many of them are like, oh, settle it, we're good. I would always probably go 3 or 4 steps past that, I think, to get a better result. But it's because I don't have, 20,000 cases.
Right.
But could I use more business? Who can't? Of course I could.
Of course. And I think there's companies out there, especially like Loudr Media, that can help you through that process. We'll talk more about that later. But what you are right now and what you stand for, that's what the public needs to see. That's what they need to see up front. You are the brand. I mean, you're the founding partner of your firm. So, people that fall in rank under you are going to do the Steve Shellist way, and I think you put that process together. Everyone knows what's happening that's coming in. You'll be able to handle the type of business that deservingly so you should.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. When you hear the term Loudr Lawyer, what is a Loudr Lawyer to you?
You could look at it a couple ways. One could look at it negatively and say, well, it's the louder lawyer, the one with the louder voice. I think to me, it just means it is the lawyer that is more heard. And that could be through many different ways, but probably the opposite of the loud lawyer. The lawyer who's in court and screaming, the one that screams at the clients, screams at opposing counsel, who's louder. The ironic part is they're going to be the least heard. The louder lawyer, the one who's heard the most, is the one who looks at each person they're speaking with, evaluates them, and speaks to them in a way that communicates most effectively to that particular person. So I think the louder lawyer is the one that is able to adapt and change to their audience.
Well said. Well said. I like that. And Steve, how do people get a hold of you there in Houston? Or you have a facility in a firm in Deer Park too, right?
Yeah, Deer Park's a suburb, 30 miles from here, 20 miles from here, close by. Our phone number is 713-715-5000. Pretty easy to remember. Or if people literally type in Steve Shellist, they're going to find me on the internet because our website will pop up, or one of my news pieces will pop up, or something will pop up. Hopefully nothing negative. But right now, those are the 2 main ways.
All right. Well, man, I appreciate your honesty, your forthcoming here on Loudr Lawyer Network. Such an honor to talk to you, sir.
I enjoyed it. You were a great interviewer.
All right. I appreciate that, man. Okay, stand tight. I'll be right back.
All right.
Thanks for being a part of the Loudr Lawyer Network. If you're enjoying the conversation, let us know. Give us a like and subscribe to never miss a thing. We'll see you next time right here on the Loudr Lawyer Network.